Okay, another lesson learned that really struck me as I've gone through life. It is always important while engaging in struggle to control the narrative. If you don't control the narrative that defines the struggle, then you've lost the battle for human and civil rights. And fortunately, I think I'm just give an experience for SNCC, what I think SNCC did in terms of controlling the narrative and establishing the narrative, and then some of today's activists. I think in the early 60s, we established the narrative of freedom, and we kept saying it, freedom. All our songs were about freedom. And so that the question of what was happening in our communities and what we talked about in terms of the world and what America had to deal with, who wanted to maintain segregation, is that they were acting as people who did not value freedom. So one of the things that we did, if you listen to the music, particularly the music from the civil rights movement, it all talks about freedom. And so we established freedom as a narrative and an objective that was very important in terms of rallying the black community and putting those who were opposed to us on the defensive and making sure that the international community supported us. And so that the maintenance of segregation became very, very difficult because we established the whole concept of freedom through our actions on our music. The second narrative, the second, I think, contribution to controlling the narrative that I think was, made a big contribution and that SNCC made a big contribution to was, I would say, Black Power. And it was interesting because it was not, Black Power was a tremendous explosion in the black community. But it was not, it was opposed by the white community, but at that point it didn't make a difference. Let me just kind of give you an example. In 1966, in 1966, when Black Power was stated, we were all Negroes. If you call somebody black, we were ready to fight. We did not want to be black. We didn't want to be African. We were ashamed of ourselves. We conked our hair to straighten it to look like white people. We put bleach on natanola and other kinds of chemicals on our face to brighten our skin. If some people went to the extreme because our broad noses, putting clothespins on our nose because we were ashamed of our nose. So there was, one of the things that we had in the 60s, you don't see it today, is that we were ashamed of ourselves. We were ashamed of our people. We were ashamed of everything that was associated with the African American community.
Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. We want black power. We want black power.
When we Stokely talked about black power and when we emphasized black power about black being beautiful, but black being worthy, black being all the things that are necessary for humanity, then we now began to assert ourselves in a way in terms of our own community that made the difference in our community and made the difference in America. So while we didn't control, Black Power wasn't a narrative appreciated by everybody. It was a narrative that the black community embraced, and it changed the black community. So today, if you call somebody a Negro, that's viewed as an insult because people wanted to be known as black and African Americans, where in 1966, it was the absolute reverse. So it means the sense of controlling the narrative is the frame of reference from which actions are taken. I also think that, looking at today, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter also is a narrative that also was helpful because it began to put, the lives and the situations of black people on the stage. So my sense is that as we begin to take actions, as we begin to engage in struggle, we always have to have a narrative that first and foremost binds the black community and other communities that are engaged in struggle. That's the most important thing. And secondly, begins to make sure that those who are listening to us understand our humanity and understands what we're struggling for, so that in fact they will join us as opposed to opposing us.